All right. It was a friend of mine who once said that impact and profit can exist in the same sentence. I agree wholeheartedly. But there was a time when I didn't fully agree. You see, I wrote my first book in 2012. It was a small book called Girl Cyclopedia, and the focus was on answering questions that young girls ask. I was a fresh graduate. I was earning plenty money at the time, a whole 30K, plus 5K from my company, and a weekly 3K allowance. So you could say I was rich and rolling in the dough. I used my savings to print that book. I had a lunch. My family and friends came and bought a few copies. And my dream of becoming an author had finally come to pass. But the thing was, I had dreamt of becoming an author, but I didn't dream of becoming a successful author. So after selling some initial copies that I decided what the price was going to be on the day of the launch, I began to give out free books because I wanted to make an impact. And I think that's the thing with creatives. We always want to what? Make an impact. There was even a time I spoke at an event of over 7,000 people who could have bought many copies of the book. But you know what I did? I gave out the copies I came with for free. One day, I ran out of copies. People wanted the books, but I couldn't afford to print them. Life was lifing. I think at this time I had gotten married. My husband was earning maybe 50K, and we were expecting a baby. So I didn't have savings. I was no longer in a position to use my savings for impact. I didn't even have any savings at all. I still had stories that I wanted to tell, but no financial empowerment to tell those stories. And that's when it occurred to me that profit and impact can dwell in the same sentence. And that sometimes to truly take an industry, we must understand the economics of it. Have you realized that many of the top billionaires who run some of the top NGOs in the world continue to run their successful businesses? Why? Because even if your goal is to do good, if you make money, you are in a better position to do good. Yes or yes? This particular speech is for good people. Those who feel guilty about charging for their creative business. Like, what if people can't afford it? What if they look at me somehow? The thing is, if your business succeeds, if you learn to charge properly and make a profit, you can give even more to people that cannot afford it. So a good place to start would be to start from asking yourself, what are the things that are free? What are the things that I offer that are free? I don't necessarily have to charge for everything because everything is not a business. Just because I'm good at something doesn't mean that a business has to come from it. And so for me, as a Christian storyteller, for example, there are some things that are free. Salvation is free. So if I'm going to maybe preach on the street or talk to somebody one-on-one, that's not a business. That aspect is free. There are also some people for whom some services are free. Can you hear me? People who have either played such a huge role in your life or business, and people who will not take advantage of you. People who will not what? But you need to be clear about the things that are a business and that aren't a business for you. There are some things that I'm good at, but I'll never do as a business. Most likely because I've tried them as a business before and I failed. Not everything is a business. Not everything is a business for you. But if you've decided that something is a business, please handle your business. Tell your neighbor, say, handle your business. What I really want to focus on within the next few minutes is letting creatives realize that you are the CEO of your business. And some of you are like, what's business? I just sit down in front of my camera and I make a video. What are you talking about? Creatives like to create. We want to make the music, make the video, make the film. We want to write the book, take the pictures. And do you know what? We expect that our work will speak for us if we just do it well. But the problem, more often than not, is that your work cannot speak. Your work has no mouth. Once in a while it might, but more often than not, your work needs you to speak for it. And so as a creative, you must learn to tell stories about your story. This is one of the biggest secrets of my life. You tell your neighbor, say, tell stories about your story. So, for example, I'm releasing 3 movies this Christmas. Now, wow. Now, wow. Wait, make that don't allow me break character. I've spent more time creating content about the film, maybe than I even spent making the films. Do you get that? So learning to tell stories about your story is so important. What many of us want to do is to create it, post it, then run and hide somewhere and be checking. Did they like it? Did they engage? And once you realize that people are not responding, I called your name. Once you realize that people are not responding the way you want them to respond, many of us retreat into our shell and we are quiet. Because you assume that everybody already knows that you are failing. But you must learn to tell stories about your story. There was a time I made a living largely by being a full-time author. And sometimes I would go to an event with 40 books. And I would sell all 40 books. And you know what I would come back and say? I sold out. I never told anybody it was 40 books I went with. And I didn't have to lie. Did I sell out or did I not sell out? So you must learn to tell stories about your story, not in a way that is deceitful, but in a way that is true and in a way that is interesting. We need to channel as much energy into selling or into talking about our product, our work, as we do into creating. Never be too embarrassed to market. Don't throw out that post in the middle of the night and then watch from a distance to see who is viewing it. It goes without saying that you should be good at what you do. And I always tell Christian storytellers, always back up your spiritual conviction with excellent execution. So don't just do it anyhow because you feel God wants you to do it. If God told you to do it, if you feel a strong need to do it, then do it well. When you see yourself as a CEO of your brand or your business, you realize that you need more than a creative department, which is what many of us have. You need accounting. You need PR and advertising. You need quality control. You might need to build all this yourself or be all this yourself. So it's important to build capacity. Not just to know the things that you are good at, but to also know the things that you are not good at and seek to be better. As time goes on, build the right team. CEOs know their numbers. I'm not just doing XYZ because everybody else is doing it. I've done calculations. How much did they make from doing XYZ? How much did it cost them to do XYZ? And how much of XYZ came to the business owner? When I'm working on something, I have 3 goals in mind. I have a huge goal. The one where if all my dreams come true, this is what I should achieve. I have a mid goal, and then I have another goal called bad asi, bad. So when you are creating stuff or launching a product or a service, have goals in mind and be sure to benchmark. Understand your industry. Listen to those who have succeeded and listen to those who have failed. And don't just speak pessimism. You know, someone told me a while back, she said, so the thing about being an author is you just have to put your mind that you will never make money from books. I said, God forbid. And then after saying God forbid, I went and looked for ways that it will make sense to me. So you will innovate better when you understand your industry. It's also important to build your audience. Many times we have this idea that if we can just work with this top XYZ person, it will change our lives forever. It's not always true. And sometimes you may never have the opportunity to work with this top person. But if you're a model, you most likely have a friend that is a photographer. And if you're a director, you most likely have a friend that's an actor. So learning to collaborate across board is so important. Amanda Dara was in my first film. She was my friend. I was like, please celebrate her now, this audience. Now, get us for mind. But she was somebody I knew, and I was like, let's do this together. And we've gone on to work together in different capacities over time. So I know that people talk a lot about networking vertically. But the truth is that sometimes if you look around you, there are people around you that can offer you the value that you desire. And so learning to build those relationships and also be there for those people. Some creatives only reach out to other creatives when they need you to support what they're doing. If you've ever messaged anybody here and the first time you sent them a DM was to ask for a favor, if you have time to delete it, please do. Let's look for opportunities to volunteer our skills, to offer value, and to be consistently good at what we do. I truly believe in scaling your business and in seeing what you do as a business, but you must also make sure that what defines you isn't what you do, but whose you are. If not, you will compromise and compromise just so you can succeed. I'm praying and wishing for all the best for you in your business and your career. Thank you for having me.